Welcome to Hot Pilgrims. Today we're in Los Angeles, California. Maximum AC off.
Maximum AC off.
I'm really obsessed with the Bradbury Building just because I'm like a huge Blade Runner nerd. Bradbury's really central to Blade Runner. It's really kind of where the look of that film is centralized. So we're riding up in the same elevator that Deckard goes up in.
Yeah, man, this is pretty
really
amazing.
Cool.
This is one of the most beautiful buildings in all of Los Angeles, probably the most beautiful. Look at this, this is glorious, man. You know, it has this wrought iron staircases, marble flooring, this completely glass skylight ceiling. I mean, look at this sucker. And the reason why it's such a great film set is because when I first walked in here, I thought I was going to the Eiffel Tower because of all the wrought iron. It kind of looks Parisian, but it's played Paris, it's played San Francisco, it's played Chicago and Los Angeles in Blade Runner.
Well, you can definitely see what Ridley Scott saw in it for Blade Runner. Because not only, yes, it does have the idea of vegetation, but it feels like a place out of time.
I talked to the location manager for Blade Runner just the other day, and he said that when they shot it in the 80s, the place was a mess. It had really fallen into disrepair. He said it didn't take too much work to make it look like a rundown apartment building, which is, of course, where William Sanderson, as the toy maker, lives and gets a visit from Daryl Hannah. You know, you're taking a place that is so flooded with light and you're making it so dark. And I think that's why it's so eerie and spooky in Blade Runner, is because I'm at least used to seeing this building just lit up, and here you've got the little spotlights kind of roving around, and it's one of those things that's a very mysterious looking building. It's kind of a haunting building, and it's strangely beautiful. The main thing for me is the staircases. Yeah. Is that you just don't find another building like this with these kind of staircases out in the open, mashed up with the elevators. It's great for chase scenes, for foot chases. There's a classic camp movie. I wrote a book about the worst movies of all time, as you know. Right. And one of my favorites is called The Indestructible Man with Lon Chaney Jr. There's a movie called M. It's a Fritz Lang movie, but it was remade by Joseph Losey here, about a child murderer, where there's a whole chase around the stairs here at the Bradbury Building. I, the Jury, you know, Mickey Spillane story with Mike Hammer shot here. It was, I think, the first 3D detective movie. And DOA, classically, with Edmund O'Brien as a guy who's dying and trying to find his murderer before he dies, you know, has a whole shootout here.
It's weird that it's such a beautiful building and it's used for so many movies where ugly things happen.
Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, part of it is that, you know, it was the most striking building when it was built in 1893, but then it went into a period of decline. So by the 40s, the 50s, even up to maybe the late 70s, it was not a beautiful building, and it was just in disrepair.
You live in this building all by yourself?
It's just like a movie set waiting to happen. And to think that this building was built before movies came to Los Angeles. 1893, the films didn't come here until like 1907. And it's almost as if this guy, George Wyman, who designed it, knew that someday the movies would hit LA.
There's also another really recent famous example was in The Artist.
Right. They decided to cast this as the home offices for Kinograph Studios. And once again, the staircases are used beautifully. You see Jean Dujardin playing a Douglas Fairbanks type matinee idol from the silent days, who's finding out he's finished. Walking up is Bernice Bejo, who is his protege. So she's on her way up, and the guy's on his way down, and they meet kind of halfway through, and she's waving to him, and it's just a beautiful moment in the film.
Do you think that the Bradbury Building it's almost like an overfished water? Like, can you still make a movie in here?
The fact that they shot 500 Days of Summer and The Artist, which won the Oscar for Best Picture, here, and people didn't say, oh, that's the Blade Runner building. Yeah, okay, you did, because you're a Blade Runner nerd. But most people didn't associate it, and I think it's a very versatile building. I mean, just look at some of the close-ups of the elevator and stuff like that. You don't have to show the whole masterful look of the building, but just some of the areas kind of bring you back to the 1890s or the 1920s or the 1950s. So, you know, I think it's a very versatile player. I think there's a lot of life in the old Gallia.